all of you who are in the field of social impact, you must be wondering why a media guy is here. What I'm hoping to tell you is this our story of disruption, coming from a sector where we genuinely believe that we have the ability to drive big social change. So let me tell you our story. In 2012, Star had already become a large, successful media company. We had multiple channels across TV shows, movies, and sports, and we were reaching more than 600 million viewers every week. But the world that we were facing was one where we could see, even as early as 2012, the early green shoots in terms of the dramatic rise in access to smartphones. People were starting to use smartphones as their main screen. Even before the data revolution that happened in the last 2 years or so, people were increasingly spending a lot of time on the smartphone. And the singular bet that we were making was that if given a choice, people wanted access to great stories, not cat videos. And that in 2012, when there was a belief that people on a mobile would not really watch anything meaningful. All that they wanted to do was to watch a few short-form clips, a few comedy clips, or perhaps the cat videos that were everywhere. But we made a fundamentally different choice. We believe that people's appetite for stories is enormous. And if you gave them the choice of accessing the stories that they were interested in, this space would explode. And I think we keep coming back to the same theme that Vikram spoke about as well. You just can't forget that this was all happening in a country where the median age is 26 years old. And we are getting younger for the next few years before the curve starts inverting. And this looks fairly dramatically different from most of the world. So the question for us as a successful, traditional media company that was doing really well was, in a world which was young and getting younger, in a world where our business was built on television, but people were increasingly spending time on the mobile phone, what could we do to disrupt ourselves? What would be the most audacious move that we could make? And the choice that we made was we will make the move to disrupt ourselves rather than wait for someone to do it to us. If you could increase the volume.
Who prefers acting over real action.
Wife to my lovely wife.
To the cable man who couldn't wait a day for payment.
Just one more day.
To the endless traffic.
Oh, what a day.
To my boss who hates cricket.
I kill him one day.
To the rats.
Could they come in?
To my father-in-law.
Get well soon.
And to the power cuts. I have one thing to say. I have moved on to starsports.com. Get over TV.
Watch India versus Australia live. Download starsports.com mobile apps. Available from October 10th.
It's always good to get a captive audience to watch, to make them watch your ad. But the biggest point that I'm trying to make here is the big audacious move was a television company coming in and saying, get over TV. And for me, a lot of the theme of impact and innovation goes to fundamentally, how do you look at disrupting the space? To get on with our story, we ran the service for a couple of years, and we kind of realized that, quite different from the myth of 2013, India was quite ready for streaming. And the big thing that was happening was increasingly younger people were starting to look at the mobile not just as one screen, but their primary screen. And for a lot of them, the philosophy of their life was, don't give me something that everyone wants to see or everyone is engaged in. Give me something that is meant for me. And that was the philosophy of Hotstar and fundamentally the philosophy of Go Solo. If you can increase the volume, please.
The gang loves football. I'm not the gang.
Go solo with Hotstar. App download karo और देखो movies, serials और sports in 7 languages absolutely free. Hotstar. Go solo. Download the app now.
The core of the philosophy was, I'm not my mother, I'm not my friend, I'm not my father, I am who I am. And for me, that was really speaking to the voice of a generation that was really articulating that we know who we are and we want something that is meant for us and or in fact for me alone. This was 2015 and we launched the service, it took off quite well. Quite quickly, what we figured was, while the DNA of the company was in storytelling, fundamentally what we had to do was disrupt ourselves through technology. We recognized that technology was at the heart of what we were doing. It wasn't just a consumer company or a storytelling company that was trying to get more stories distributed in the world. Fundamentally, the opportunity that was available to us was, how do we bring content and technology together in a manner where we were able to create fundamentally different experiences with strong technology capabilities being at the heart of it. And then over the last 18 months, the big explosion in access to affordable data happened, where by any count, nearly 200 million people have had new access to affordable mobile broadband in the last 18 months or so. And what we have really seen in the context of that growth is an explosion in people coming and spending time on Hotstar. We now are downloaded faster than babies are born in the country, which is always an interesting statistic. And people come in fairly large numbers. At the India-Pakistan finals a few months ago at the Champions Trophy, we had around 36 million people come in over those 6 hours. And interestingly, there were nearly 5 million people who came at the same time. And fundamentally, what that forces you to do from a technology point of view is really build for scale. And that is the theme that I want to come back to. But the point I'm making here is, if you look at where we started in 2012, before the smartphone and the data revolution happened, and where we have ended up, what has come back to us is that we need to reinvent ourselves. We need to explore opportunities through capabilities that we didn't have 4 or 5 years ago. And the big theme, and I think you've seen it in some of the conversations earlier, is we are seeing this revolution going deeper into the country. Especially in the last 2 years, this phenomenon is no longer about the metros or the larger cities. It's happening across the country, across geographies, across languages. And for a lot of you who may be big fans of the show, it would be remarkable that in the last 4 years, where 4 years ago we would not have had any option to access stories on demand, here we have a show like Coffee with Karan that is now watched more on Hotstar than on television. So if I step back and think about the theme of 2030 in digital and what it means for many of you who are building amazing companies and who are thinking of disrupting multiple fields, for me the big theme is, it's still very early days. It's still day one. And the canvas is fairly wide for you to do what you want to do. And the story in media applies to every sector. It is true in education, it's true in healthcare, where while most of the current conversation is about access, is about solving the day one problems, you know that when you look at the next 15 years, the opportunity for us will go way beyond access and day one problems that we are grappling with now. And for me, I want to call out 3 things in terms of what I hope would be helpful to many of you thinking about creating disruptive companies. One, technology is going to be at the heart of it. It is going to be fundamentally about how to use technology to come up with answers that no one has cracked before. Second, and I don't think we talk about it enough, how central design is. And design is not just about look and feel, it's not just about functionality, it's about how do you use thoughtful ways and approaches to make sure that there is no friction for consumers to come and use your products and services. How do you solve the problem of zero friction? That is what design is about. And lastly, scale. The enormous opportunity for India is that you can't make it work if you only solve for 1 million or 10 million. You have to think about it in units of 100 million or so. And for me, if you look at the combination of technology, design, and scale, the big opportunity for each of you sitting here who's trying to create big social impact in your field is the opportunity is to make in India, but many of the problems that you are cracking will be very relevant for the world. Thank you very much.